Hi and welcome to the Guitarist Tone Lounge. I'm Neville Martin.
I'm Richard Barrett.
And today we're looking at a couple of new Taylor acoustic guitars. These are purely acoustic. They don't have any electronics in these particular models. This range is available with them, but these don't have them.
No.
This is the American Dream series. I'm holding the AD27.
And I've got the AD17.
With a black top. They're
Yes.
rather fetching in a very simple way. What's the ethic behind these, Rich?
Well, they're deliberately simply done. They're meant to be a working guitar that you can travel around with without panicking every time you pick it up that you're going to get a scratch on it. The wood, I believe, is chosen specifically so that it's not perfect in terms of cosmetics.
Yeah.
So there'll be little discolorations and things like that, which is a sort of nod towards vintage guitars, though they're not relic or anything like that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, on high-end guitars of any kind, whether they're solid bodies or acoustics, you know, a cosmetic flaw will rule it out very often. But in these days of scarcity of woods and trying to be ecologically sound, Taylor in particular have been very strong on this to not chuck away these woods that are perfectly usable tone woods, perfectly solid, structurally sound, but they might have the odd little flaw in. But actually, I like that.
I think it's a bit like the odd-shaped vegetables that taste just the same.
Quite. That's a good
just occurred to
analogy,
me.
actually. Yeah. Yes. So you know, there might be the odd on this one. There's a couple of marks on the mahogany neck, very slight things, but that will tell you it's your guitar. I quite like that.
Yes, and I must admit, though, having looked at this one, I'm not sure I really saw anything. I mean, it's not like they're going into the shops with massive knots in the wood or anything. No. That's not what they're saying. They're just saying that the ridiculously high standards someone like a custom shop would have.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
yeah, they're simple. I mean, they're finished very thinly, so you can see the grain in terms of it. It looks like a bit like a strawberry finish. You can see the actual pock marks in the grain itself, and you can feel them as well. It's still very smooth, but it's not shiny and glossy like a regular Taylor would be. Structurally, they're done again to minimise the use of wood, so the necks have both got a scarfed-on headstock. That's where the join is very cleverly tapered into the headstock is tapered into the neck. Likewise, the heel. So the neck part is literally just that. The heel is glued on. The headstock is glued on. That saves so much wood.
And I believe it's actually stronger anyway, isn't it, than a single piece?
It is.
I think there's been a lot of snobbery about single pieces of wood. That might be too strong a word. I don't want to offend anyone, but there's a lot of people say, "Oh, a single piece of wood," but it's not necessarily a good thing.
It's not. I mean, on a headstock with the pitched back headstock like that, on a guitar that doesn't have that kind of neck join, the grain carries on like that. So the weakest point in the guitar is where the grain goes straight through the headstock. So you knock that like that, or drop it forwards in its case, like on old classic guitars, they would do that. Old guitars, the old vintage guitars, the headstock was often glued on in a V shape. So, in fact, they still nod to that now. Lots of them have got that
with
V
the finish on the back.
But it's actually carved into the wood. So that's a bit of historical stuff for you. Neither guitar has binding anywhere on it at all.
No, we don't know really whether this is the top that's been masked and stained, but I do have this nice sort of finishing strip here that's the lighter wood. It could be the spruce.
I think it is.
This
I think it's the spruce top. It's just been masked off.
Yeah.
And the black. I mean, that black's very. I'm a sucker for black acoustic guitars.
Yeah,
Johnny
really
Cash
like
and all that. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
But the other thing that we both liked about these immediately was their shape and size.
Yeah. They've got that round-shouldered look. It's quite beatly.
Yeah, it's almost like a classical guitar shape.
Yeah.
It hasn't got it's not very deeply waisted in the middle, and it's like a nice, almost a bulbous kind of shape.
Yep, and further than that too, both the front and the back are just, is chamfered the right word for that?
Just nicely round off.
Slightly, so you don't feel it digging in.
They feel a bit organic. In fact, the whole point of them is, I think, to feel organic, and they sound organic too, actually.
Yeah, I noticed immediately on picking this up that it's got that very focused sound. Sure, there's high end, there's low end, but there are really quite rich mids, and you don't get the feeling that you'll hear it back when you've recorded into a microphone.
No.
There won't be lots of scratchy top. It's voiced very nicely for
No,
miking up.
they don't sound produced. Some acoustics, there's so much sparkle and so much low end and so much high end.
It's satisfying while you're sat there playing it, isn't it?
These sound much more earthy, don't they? They've got an immediacy to them.
I mean, these...
Yeah.
I can dig into the top without feeling like I'm going to make anyone bleed from the eyes. You know?
Exactly. These have got Taylor's later version of the bracing system, haven't they?
Yes, it's the V-class bracing.
Which Andy Powers, their kind of guru, has designed, and they're kind of, I think they're putting that out generally across the whole range, bit by bit. It's a modern rethinking of the classic bracing that's been around for kind of 100 years or so.
Wow. Yeah.
The woods on my one, this one here, this is either sapele or mahogany. I think whatever's available they choose. Sapele is a mahogany family member, and this is nice and dark, nice and stripy grain, classic mahogany style guitar.
And it's solid, isn't it?
Solid. All the woods are solid. Solid mahogany neck, as with a scarf-on thing. Taylor invented that position for the strap button because their necks are bolted on, so you can't do it from there or there. And very simple. And it's a eucalyptus fretboard and bridge. Now, we're pretty sure, having looked at pictures of eucalyptus wood, which is general shades of mid to light, bit stripy here and there, that they must be stained black to look like ebony. We first thought they might be rich light, which is the synthetic ebony, but they're not. So they're all solid wood guitars from throughout.
And eucalyptus, we have read today, is a fast-growing wood as well, so that's sustainable.
Sustainable,
as well.
exactly. They've got the Schaller style tuners. Whether they're Schallers, I'm not exactly sure. It says Taylor on the thing. They could well be Schaller. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of it. Simple binding around the sound hole. Attractive little pick guard in tortoiseshell, dark tortoiseshell. And that's kind of it. Simple black bridge pins. You can get these with the Taylor ES2 expression system electronics, but these are plain acoustic guitars.
Yes, yeah, and it's not a massive price hike for the electrics either, so it's worth considering.
Yeah.
What I'm holding here, sorry if I could stutter a bit more. It's very similar dimensions, construction, but I think the major difference is the woods here. Yeah. We have a solid spruce top, and I've reminded myself about half a dozen times what the name
of Encol.
Of Encol. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Which looks rather walnutish to me.
Which apparently sonically is very similar to rosewood, so I see where they're going with that. Yeah. And having played a few of those kind of classic, James Taylor type guitars, then I recognise it sonically.
Yeah. Okay, shall we play something?
Why not? I thought challenge everyone's expectations and play a blues in E.
There you go. Okay. Okay, a little bit about the sounds of the guitars. I mean, they're ostensibly quite similar in as much as they're the same size, solid tone woods and everything.
Embracing, yeah.
But in the room here, it's always quite subjective, but we seem to think that this one is a little bit more top end, a little bit more bottom end, and a tiny bit more expansive, whereas would you say yours is a bit more central, middle focused?
Yes, yeah, it's a bit louder almost, I think, as a result of that. Slightly more aggressive.
Yeah.
Possibly good for fitting into a mix where you've got stuff happening down low and up high.
Exactly, or in a pub situation. So imagine in an Irish bar where you've got all the other instruments as well going on. That would be the one that's driving everything in the middle. Whereas this might be more like a solo blues performer or solo folk performer or something like that. I mean, obviously this is all very generalising.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and it does seem that, there's a more complete representation of every frequency going on there.
Yeah.
It's hard to say whether there's a teeny dip in the mids. And this one, it's a little bit harder, though that's not a criticism. It's quite satisfying too. I mean, one thing that we haven't done yet is we intend to swap chairs and play through the different microphones, because I'm playing through ribbon microphones, which are slightly warmer and less detailed.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of AKG 414s here, which are condenser mics, and they pick up things in a very detailed way. They're good for vocals as well as acoustic guitars. So, but I think overall, I mean, Taylor have got a reputation for making very pristine sounding guitars, very, very bright and fresh and modern on the top. That's kind of what they're more known for, that kind of bright, modern, crisp, almost produced sound. These are harking back. I won't mention the two other brands that I have in mind, but this is a bit more like one that you see some in this colour, and that's more like one that you often see in dark brown sunbursts.
Yes, and it reminded me a bit of James Taylor records.
That kind of thing.
Less and less subtle as we go.
Finger picky. But we really, really like these guitars. I mean,
actually, that's something that's worth mentioning, that this seems to work really well for a finger picky type.
Yeah.
Is that plagiarism?
If you go any further, it is,
It seems pretty comfortable doing either.
Yeah.
Testament to the setup out of the box as well, actually.
Oh, they both came really brilliantly set up. We should mention they're 1 3/4 at the nut, which is a kind of standard finger picky kind of thing. 25.5-inch scale length, which is again pretty much par for the course for most guitars. 14-fret neck joint, which again is par for the course for most acoustic and modern acoustic guitars. So there's nothing here that's going to surprise you. You get it straight out of the box and you know exactly what you're getting, but you will be surprised if you know Taylor guitars at how these sound compared to a lot of the Taylors that you'll know. And they're all great, but these have got a certain, I suppose, more earthy, more organic, more, I don't know, more down-to-earth, more
This
simple.
certainly doesn't have that pristine top to it, which is my personal taste. I kind of go for that, I must admit. I've always been paranoid about the sound of the pick on the strings, and I don't like that. And I'm really hearing the body of the note.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. So yeah, if you want something that's if you want something with this brand name, which is a fantastic brand name to have on the headstock, but you want something with a bit more of that grittiness, earthiness that you might associate with other brands of acoustic guitar, then you might want to try these out. Price-wise, they're all American made, all solid woods. They kind of average out 13 to 15-ish £100 UK pounds.
Yeah, I think this was sort of edging up towards 15, more like 14 without the pickup.
Yeah,
more
and
like
without
15
that's got a black top. That's known as the black top.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit more expensive than the natural top. And I think it looks fantastic in black. I think it really does.
Yeah, and with its clear pick guard there, it's really subtle. That's glossy actually, and it's a nice touch.
Yeah, that's black, whereas this is slightly tortoiseshell. You can't possibly see that there. But again, this has got that love. I love this, the old mahogany top acoustic. They say something a bit, again, it's earthy. I don't use the cliches all the time, but it's
but it's because it's a good cliche. It's true, isn't it? I know what you mean. Earthy was a word that occurred to me a minute ago when we were talking about
guitars like this would have been made for people who couldn't afford the more expensive ones. Okay, £1,500 isn't a cheap guitar by any stretch of the imagination, but compared to £3,500, it is.
It's very reasonable for a quality guitar, isn't it? I guess
all solid woods and all the rest of it. So it's a working. I mean, Taylor wanted it to be a working man's guitar, hence the not completely pristine, perfect.
Exactly, yeah. They've taken a lot of that, probably unnecessary, unless you're going to polish it and look at it.
Yeah.
You know, it's for people who play them. And that also stretches to them including a case.
Oh, yes.
Aero case, I believe they're called, which has this sort of the strap on it like a gig bag does, but it's actually a solid case under there with pockets.
Yeah, we'll get that out and quickly show you that because it's worth having a look at. Here we have the Aero case. It's a great bit of kit because at first you think it's a gig bag, but it's not at all. I mean, it's made of canvas style material, possibly cordura or something like that. It's got all the usual thing. Great big compartment there for sticking all your usual goodies in. It's beautifully lined in this red plush thing, velvety kind of material. Lovely big neck, solid neck rest in there.
Yeah, it's properly angled and everything. I'm always on the lookout for things like that because I don't trust cases having...
There's an extra reinforcement at the top there. Reinforcement you can't see. I'll see if I can let you see it. For the strings there, but where the tuners go. It's got a on the bottom there for standing it up. But the main thing about it is the sides are solid. So it's kind of halfway between a case and a gig bag.
Yeah.
Very, very solid. And of course it's lightweight. You can stick it over your shoulder. And it looks very, very cool as well. So there's the Aero case, which is a very important part of this package.
So to recap, these are the Taylor American Dream series, and the one I'm holding here is the AD17, and this is the one with the spruce top and the Ovancol back and sides. I'm so pleased with myself for remembering that word. I don't know why I have a blind spot for that. So a bit like a rosewood back and sides, sonically speaking, but more sustainable. And I think, is yours the 27?
Mine is the AD27. This is the either mahogany or sapele body, mahogany neck. Very simple. Neither has the ES2 expression system in it, but you can get that for a bit more money, but not a huge amount more.
And it's a good system.
Yeah, it's a good system, voiced to Taylor's guitars. They both have the V-Class bracing system, which is the modern system that's being rolled out across pretty much all the Taylor range.
Yep.
Simple guitars, earthy guitars, not designed to be perfect and pristine. They're designed to be working, gigging guitars. They come with a fantastic Aero gig bag stroke case, really good. And they street around the 13 to 15-ish UK pounds. So that's not an extraordinary amount of money for an all-American made, all-solid wood guitar.
I definitely feel that someone that's shopping for a quality acoustic guitar that hasn't got, someone that knows what they're looking for and knows what they want, that hasn't got $3,000 or something to spend, this is a real bullseye for that, I would say, for somebody. Yeah,
and there's something kind of the inverted snob about it, that I've got something that isn't too flash and it's not too shiny, and I can make great sounds out of a guitar that looks a little bit workmanlike, and that's quite a cool thing as well.
Well, we know how cool the Junior series is.
Exactly. That's exactly the vibe of it, the Les Paul Junior type thing, or the Fender Duosonics and things like that. They became really cool, and a bit like that here. Okay, we're going to play you out with one more piece, but when we come back in a second, don't be shocked. I'm going to be over there, Richard's going to be over here, just so you can see that if there's any difference or noticeable difference between the AKG and the SE mics.